Okay, I'll call this regular council meeting of 2014-0408 to order, and just a comment, like a recommendation, I don't know if we could put this in the Pennywise, celebrating and thanking all the volunteers that make our community work, because without them we'd be in a tougher place than we're already in. So could you then prepare something for Pennywise? And I'm wondering if we should put it on the community website, as well. Okay.
Okay.
So a motion for approval of the agenda. Moved by Councilor Hewitt, second by Councilor Lane. Discussion, call a question, all in favor. Motion passes. And adoption of the minutes, and could we do this as a block, or is there something coming out of these minutes?
This is a block.
Moved by Councilor Holland, second by Councilor Hewitt. Discussion, call a question, all in favor. It's adopted. No delegations. Ooh. Business arising from the minutes. Report from the administrator.
Okay. The boat launch project is complete. Some of you may have been down there and seen the work conducted by the Public Works. It's looking pretty sharp. We'll get some signage up there in the near future too. In terms of recreation appointments, we were missing a couple of bodies from the recreation committee, so I have a recommendation that Joy Lucat and Heather Hewitt be appointed to the recreation committee for a 2-year term.
Moved by Councilor Hewitt, second by Councilor Holland. Discussion, call a question, all in favor. Motion passes.
Mr. Ken Butt has 1 year remaining in this term, expiring in December. To ensure that Council has sufficient time prior to May 15th to have the financial plan and tax rate bylaws complete in line with legislation, I'm recommending that a special meeting of Council be scheduled for Tuesday, May 6th, proceeding committee to the whole at 6 p.m.
Moved by Councilor Holland, second by Councilor Lane. Discussion, call a question, all in favor. Motion passes.
And that's that for this.
Okay,
Could I just have clarification? Meeting time says proceeding committee the whole at 6 p.m. So the committee holds at 6 p.m.
No, sorry. That'll be the special meeting will be at 6. Committee
Okay.
the whole will be at 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay. So business arising from the, okay, that's done. So we're on to 5.
Okay.
Correspondence. So with the letter dated 2014-0404 from the Regional District of Central Kootenai Chief Financial Officer be received. Moved by Councilor Lane. Second by Councilor Hewitt. Discussion.
Just, again, I'm just going to point out to everybody again that the fire service costs that are sort of being represented to the regional district come in about $121,000. And the cost that near as I can sort of deduce from what we had in our books from the county before is about $123,000. That's it.
Further discussion? Call a question. All in favor? Motion passes. The letter dated 2014-0404 from the West Kootenai Boundary Regional Hospital District Treasurer be received. Moved by Councilor Hewitt. Second by Councilor Holland. Discussion. Call a question. All in favor? Motion passes. That letter dated 2014-0331 from Columbia Basin Trust, Rural Development Institute be received, and that participation in the Digital Basin Project be approved. Moved by Councilor Holland. Second by Councilor Lane. Discussion. Call a question. All in favor? The CAO and I had a discussion about this. I'm seeing a lot of overlap here. So I've got a few concerns. I think it's worth tracking. But, for instance, Opportunities BC is doing similar things. So, anyway, the more digital we can get in terms of resources, as long as we can be part of the process by which we update our village information, that's going to be the key to me. An email dated 2014-03-27 from Ms. Holly Rubinski be received. The email has already been forwarded to the Health Select Committee. Moved by Councillor Hall, second by Councillor Lang. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Motion passes. That the letter dated 2014-04-01 from Kaslo and Area Chamber of Commerce with respect to May Day's planning be received. Moved by Councillor Lang. Was that a second there, Jim? Or? I thought I saw your hand go up. Did I miss something? Or?
No, not one second.
So we have a mover, but no seconder. Is that correct?
Second for discussion.
Okay. Councillor Hall, second for
That's what
discussion.
you have to say.
Yeah, I don't think this is a simple matter of receipt. I think there's a lot of things that need to be approved individually, and we need to go through this and review it and make recommendations based on what the requests are. Just to receive is not quite the right motion, so that's why I wasn't backing the receive motion. I think we need to go through this. So whether it's a refer to committee of whole, deal with the committee of whole, it looks like we've got a short agenda here tonight. We could probably just hash through this tonight if you want, but the receipt motion didn't seem correct. So I'm voting against receipt at this point. Or we could receive and go ahead and make subsequent motions, but however council wants to do it, I'm fine. It's not a simple issue.
What would be easiest for you? Councillor.
Can I just suggest we change it to receive and refer to committee of the whole
Is there time?
for discussion? Well, actually, when is our next committee of the whole?
6th of May.
That's probably too late. So we should.
Councillor Lang?
I want to plow through this and get it off our agenda,
Yeah.
off the table. If there's issues, if there's contentious issues here, let's get them out and get them dealt with. But I'm just reading through the list and I'm not seeing a lot of stuff here that raises any red flags for me. But if there is, let's deal with it. And then I think we're getting, May Days is rapidly approaching and you need to get
So
this.
would council be comfortable going through the numbers and trying to approve all the numbers we can and then go back and pick up the ones that we can't? Now, then we could move all the ones we approve as a block rather than make a motion for each one. And then the ones where there's more discussion, then we can deal with those would that work for council?
We're just going to start at the top, we're going to go down
Yeah.
until we run into a problem. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, but so my proposal is that if we see one where there's an issue, then we just put that to one side, the CAO will record that number, and then we'll come back to that after we move all the ones that we approved. Councillor Keogh.
Yes, right. But is that our motion right at the present time is just to receive? Our motion is to receive at this point.
Deal with the motion and then.
Yeah.
Okay, discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Motion passes. Subsequent motion.
So I'm going to move that we accept all items except, and the first one I'll ask poll for discussion would be 3, and everybody else can chime in. 10, 12, speed,
So we got 3, 10, 12,
14 should be discussed in detail, I believe.
14.
Yep.
Okay, so then we're going to move 1 to 17 excluding 3, 10, 12, and 14, is that correct?
Okay.
Motion? Moved by Councillor Holland, second by Councillor Lang. Did you raise your hand?
Yeah.
Discussion, call the question, all in favor? Motion passes for those selected ones. Okay, back to number 3.
So I wanted to, I'm not, and this is a question to staff, I'm not clear on some of those major weekends of Saturday market operating on Saturday and Sunday, or is that not the case?
I don't believe Saturday market starts until June.
Okay,
That was my understanding.
that takes care of that. So 3, that was my only question on 3.
So a motion then to,
Oh,
or you want to wait till we finish these?
sure, maybe there's nothing wrong with the others either.
Okay, so 3, now we're on to 10, is that correct?
Yeah, I thought that the banner's not hung on 4th Street anymore, it's hung at the bridge.
That still is 4th Street, sort of.
Okay.
No, is it?
Says across 4th Street, I don't think we do that anymore.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hung at the banner location of the bridge, so that's a minor change to that, I believe.
Yeah. Usually it would be strung between
The buildings
the,
down there?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and the
Well,
buildings, so.
Right here,
No, well, they moved
And
down.
here too,
down,
but
yeah.
now they put out the bridge up there, which is better.
bridge is fine.
Yeah.
So how do you want to do that? Because it says 4th Street as in previous years, because last year it was hung there.
I
But
believe this
years
is-
prior to that, it was hung down. So how do we want to word
I
that?
think this is just a regurgitation of previous year's letters, so
Yeah.
it's not been updated.
Yeah.
Is
So we'll just-
is my guess.
Yeah.
Okay,
So it'll
so,
just be Maddie's banner to be hung at the municipal banner location.
By the bridge,
Bridge,
on Highway 31.
yeah.
okay, so you're going to make that motion then, or how do you want to deal with this, Neil?
It would be that the following items also be accepted. The 3 as is, 4 banner to be hung in location by bridge,
Okay,
Highway 31.
And it
Okay,
should probably mention, I believe it's municipal staff that does that, correct?
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So that should be probably,
Okay, then 12.
I think that what we had done in the last couple of years is that we haven't had staff go and empty the garbage themselves because it requires a call out.
Yeah,
That the coordinators have to organize their own people to do it and because the truck is provided for their use. That's my understanding.
Yeah.
We haven't had
yeah.
staff have to be around to do that.
So then the garbage must be retrieved by Mayday staff and placed in the truck.
Oh, this is from garbage containers on Front Street. Actually, I thought Brian
I thought
had
Brian
made
was
some.
worked something out with that.
Yeah.
So we should instruct, I think
Brian did.
the last time, I think it was, they worked something out with Brian, so I think they need to,
Speak with the garbage.
Okay, you got garbage to pick up the Cookney Waste Services.
well, I don't know, but they made some arrangement where he did something so that what happens a lot down there, you know, those garbage cans get full,
Mhm.
and in the morning you go down there and the birds,
Yeah.
it's crazy. So I don't know if Brian was doing late pickup, or if he's doing a really early morning pickup, or what, but I think Brian did something to
Yeah.
accommodate that. So they probably just need to talk down and see if, and this may get hunted right back to us again before it gets sorted out, but I think the first stop is Brian.
So staff request clarification concerning the process of picking up the garbage from Front Street. Councillor Lang?
That could be it. It's time to deal with it.
Yeah, where I'm confused here is that Ryan doesn't come up during the weekend, so he works Friday and then his next day is Tuesday, correct? And the issue is that garbage really needs to be picked up Sunday morning. That's my recollection from my time at steering the ship. So that's really where the whole crux of the argument is. You can't get from Friday afternoon to Tuesday morning without at least one pickup in the interim. So, however that would look.
Could we leave it for staff to make a satisfactory arrangement, or?
Well, Daphne would know because she was very involved
Mhm.
with the Media's coordination last year, and she is again this year.
So could we have staff to clarify and report back to council?
Yeah, the main thing I think municipality doesn't want to call out. We agree with that.
So we don't need a motion for that, then we just refer it to staff for resolution.
Yeah, no, actually, I might make good resolutions, all these items we lined out, we can just have a discussion with you and let staff, is that an easy motion?
Yes, it's basically staff to confirm, our staff for get back to council with the following.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're on to 14, I think. Okay, that was the last one. Street closures, what was the issue there?
Well, one thing I can see is under item A, it says also from 4th Street to 3rd Street. Which avenue are we talking? I thought it was B Avenue that they conducted these on, but because I think it's B. But I think we need to know which avenue it is, so we know that, so we know what to advise homeowners, or which homeowners to advise that there'll be a street closure.
Again, refer to staff for clarification.
Yeah.
Probably some hours for the closures too,
Mhm.
about.
Yes. And B is, to my way of thinking, is standard. That's been every year.
Yeah.
And same with
C.
the parade route. And same with D.
Yeah.
So really, it's just A needs clarification. Am I?
Yeah, maybe some times on C, just for public information, so we
Right.
still know when the streets are closed.
Well, yeah, because we actually like Front Street closed
Yeah.
from 8 a.m., I think, isn't it?
Yeah, and it'd be good to put times in there, so they can be advertised, and the same for the helicopter rides, part of the Eddie Manor down there, put some times on that.
So my sense is that staff could complete this by the next council meeting. Okay. All right, communications for information. Let the circulation package dated 2014-0408 be received. Moved by Councillor Hewitt. Second by Councillor Holland. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Motion passes. Committee and staff reports. Staff committee action items. Is that right? Yeah.
So you have quite a list to go through there. We had more resolutions that were more varied and involved than usual to come out of committee of the whole. So there's quite the list there. I wouldn't recommend doing all as a block, however, because they vary significantly.
And I'll move that $5,292 of community development program funds from the RDCK is applied to complete the Washington unit for the wildfire and face shield treatment project, subject to UBCM match funding availability.
Second Councillor Hewitt. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor?
No discussion? Is there
Yeah.
Just a quick update on that. We should hear by Thursday if that's going to go forward at all. It's not certain at all. We may end up, unfortunately, having to drop that unit altogether from this project, but fingers crossed we may get some additional UBC funds.
Call the question. All in favor? Motion passes.
I'll move the second recommendation that the draft animal attractant bylaw amendment be brought forward to council.
Moved by Councillor Hewitt, second by Councillor Holland. Discussion. Call a question. All in favor? Motion passes.
I'll move that staff evaluate plans and associated costs for building public toilet facilities in the downtown core in concert with the feasibility report for the committee hold to address the creation of a designated area for taxation purposes as and when staff time permits.
Seconder, second by Councillor Lane. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Motion passes.
I'll move 3, that the village announce it cannot move forward with a public washroom solution beyond current divisions in downtown this year.
Second, Councillor Hewitt. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
I'll move the next one, that the schedule change request Kootenai Horse and Carriage is approved in their agreement with the village amended.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Hewitt, seconded by Councillor Holland. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Motion passes.
I'll move that the CO discuss with the village foreman if it is feasible for public works to be educated on invasive plant species identification on village property and keep a record of observed invasive plants as part of their normal routine work duties.
Seconder, second by Councillor Lane. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor?
My turn again?
I just might add here that, you know, this is what Catherine does for a living. I'm sure she could spend an hour with the crew as part of her, because she is familiar with the community and the work that was done by John Addison. And if it takes more than an hour, I'd be very surprised, because she knows where to go, and they know too. So, but I think it's a good thing to be aware. All right, where are we at? Oh, Sufferfest A block.
That the 2014 Summerfest proposal be approved in principle with the following to be clarified. A, that races on Front Street / Water Street will not prohibit parked vehicles from leaving. B, that the village review a side building exposure to produce Summerfest during traffic control on the highway. C, that confirmation from Saturday Market for sharing the park be confirmed with NKLAHS. That the RCMP be notified of these plans and comments on adjustments or restrictions to meet their satisfaction for public safety. And E, that the application of Frank County BC be forwarded to council for approval.
You're going to be an F there?
Oh, sorry. And F, that a detailed road closure schedule be provided.
Moved by Councillor Lane, seconded by Councillor Hall. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Motion passes.
Got an update on the hospital one for you. I moved ahead just to quietly discuss with some senior staff at IHA this issue earlier in the week. It's my understanding that a fairly strongly worded memo was being circulated to all staff up at the hospital. I now know who in the IHA is responsible for these matters as a result of touching base. It's actually a really good spin-off of having the Health Select Committee operating, that we now know where to find people. They indicated they hadn't received our letter late last year, so they are moving forward. Council, I would suggest, however, that these recommendations that have been brought forward by the committee, there's nothing wrong with them, but they're perhaps not urgent. We can implement them over maybe a more time than we thought we maybe had it.
Maybe should I refer this block to committee of the whole for closer look? And maybe it could come back polished up to more appropriate to what we now know?
Yeah.
Sure, so I'll make a motion. Refer this block of recommendations regarding the hospital to the committee of the whole.
Seconder, second by Councillor Lane. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Motion passes. Wildfire interface report.
This is a report from Council Consulting. Sorry, it's going slow here. I just received today another update just indicating progress on the units that are underway. The Gallowdale Golf Course is going along very well, as is Warner. So we have to be done by the end of the month, and I think for the units that are currently in work, that is entirely feasible. And the quality of work, as been noted by John Catherine, has been increasing dramatically, and the True Blue Ventures and the crew are to be congratulated on the excellent work they're doing.
To receive this report.
Seconder. Second by Councillor Lang. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor. Motion passes. And verbal reports.
Yeah.
Councillor Hall.
I went to the Farm Food Fork sessions on Sunday in Nelson. I was surprised at and I've sent a report around the council so you can see most of all this stuff, but I was surprised to see how much activity there is in the public and the private sector around identifying food security issues for our area. Big takeaways, part of what I said here, it's kind of discouraging to sit there when you identify all the issues and the problems around that and what we're really up against. So a major part of it was a little bit of a cheerleading session around trying to make sure that people don't get discouraged or see the task as overwhelming or beyond their capacity to deal with it. And there was a lot of mention around doing small things and staying the course because the issue is too critical not to. The thing that struck me that I mentioned here that is kind of lacking in all this is any kind of real momentum or initiative or leadership or guidance from local government. Local government doesn't really seem to be much involved with this, and identifying what local government can do. I've been tasked to speak at the food forum coming up on April 12th. So I'm trying to come up with something. It's a real interesting subject, and it's sure opened my eyes to realize that through a couple incidents we had here last year around the roads, closed out things that, we've got enough fresh food in this town for about 24 hours. So either you work on ways to improve that situation, or you work on ways to mitigate against the downfall of that, like whether it's emergency preparedness or whatever. But anyway, I think that coming out of this, maybe there's going to be some place for local government to be a little bit more of a participant in all these works, because right now there is a strong movement at the grassroots level around this. So, that's about it.
I could just add there that this will be one of the workshops. There will be some network conference, and that if you saw my email, I'm reading in this area, and I actually got Amy's book again to go through that, and there's a lot of issues there in terms of policy gets complicated, but what I'd like to do is review the RDCK's agricultural plan for the area, because it did do quite a detailed assessment of what that looks like for our area. So again, it's like Jim says, how do you take responsibility for, how do you move it ahead, how do you organize it? That's the real challenge for local government. And unless you got a community champion that's going to take it on, with some direction, it gets really challenging, I think, given all the other things we've got to try and deal with. But verbal reports.
Yeah, I went to I attended the community forestry seminar, symposium, whatever you want to call it, up at the golf course last week, and I was really impressed with what transpired there. They had a really good cross-section of all the mill owners, the loggers, and the trucking community within our geographical region. It was a very frank and open discussion. I was amazed at the level of cooperation that exists between the loggers and the mill operators. I always kind of saw it as a dog-eat-dog business, but actually they work quite well together. Dwight Smith, for instance, has a special kind of working relationship with Ken Klesnikoff to get the wood he needs to produce the product he's trying to produce. And value added got talked about quite a bit, and I don't think anybody's done more for value added than Ken Klesnikoff with his Kootenai Innovative Wood. Although it's been heartbreaking for him to have to go through the process of tooling up and then watching his markets disappear to offshore producers, primarily China. But anyway, I think community forest should be commended for doing a great job. I think it was a very worthwhile discussion that took place, and I think we need to do what we can to support our logging community. They're still very viable, but they're struggling, and there are a number of issues there. So I think we need to stay on top of it. Keep the lines of communication open.
So I know you had a family situation there. Did you go to the West Kootenai?
I did not.
Economic? Okay. Well, Councillor Hewitt, did you have anything? Riding club or anything happened to you in the last 2 weeks?
No.
It's tax time, isn't it?
Unless you want personal items.
No.
No. I
Well,
worked.
yeah. Well, I went to the Council of Forest Industries annual general meeting, and I was amazed at how many mayors were there. Actually, they had a reception for the mayors on the Tuesday night, so the mayor from Lawrence Lake and Prince George and John Dooley and Lawrence Chernoff were there, interacting with members. My report is about this thick, so I'll leave it downstairs where you can get at it. Rod Arnold wanted access to it because it had some information that he was interested in. It was based on the fact that recovery is occurring in the forest industry because of markets. There was a lot of discussion about value added, and to Rob's point, the role that China plays. There was a presentation of the COFI representative acting on behalf of Indian entrepreneurs with some interesting comments on how difficult that is, but they want our wood, and specifically they want our hemlock because they can stain it and it looks like teak, if you can believe that. Doors, windows, because the middle class in India is expanding rapidly and they want wood, and they're slowly, and they want wood, what's kind of interesting, from sustainably managed forests. Now there is so much leakage from illegal logging in Myanmar and Indonesia coming into the country, but they're slowly closing that gap there. There was quite an issue on safety, and I just really felt that the council is reaching out to local governments, and Chair Keller was there on behalf of the RDCK, engaged in discussion. So it was quite an interesting forum, and the only issue that arose amongst the elected officials was the fact that while they treated us very nice, they really didn't engage us, in a political way that we felt we may have been able to give them information about our communities. But they seem to be resolved to start to come to council meetings and saying, this is the payroll we put into this community. These are our plans for the future, and get a little more involved in issues of the value, as Rob pointed out, of the forest industry in many of our rural communities. So it was quite an enjoyable time. And Just briefly on the hospital board meeting, I discussed with the CAO, we're looking at a discussion concerning what council might want to take a position on. So the three or four letters were written. Was it 4 letters were written? I can't remember. It was 3, I think, or maybe 4. And the debate is 1 site or 2 sites. 1 site being a major expenditure on a regional hospital of a very modern nature versus continuing to upgrade Nelson and Trail. So Neil is taking a look at the letters that were written by the mayors from Nelson, Montrose, and Trail concerning the 2-site initiative. And then there's a group of which we have 2 people, Mary Snickles, I think, and Kate O'Keefe, would like to have some type of forum for public input into and explore what that looks like. So I'm not sure where council wants to go with this, whether they want to have a position on this discussion, because it gets down to how would it be financed. And so there's a big discussion at the board level as to how much should be put in reserves, because, you know, if you're going to go and spend $250 million in 3 years on a new hospital, and you got to start from square one, that's going to have a pretty big impact on it. What was the increase from the regional district for the hospital, or what from the hospital board? Did we discuss that today?
In this year?
Yeah, this year's.
Well, it's actually a small decrease from the hospital district requisition.
Okay, so we're holding the line here, and I think they put $2 million into reserve just for the planning function. Anyway, Neil's going to prepare something, and then we'll see whether council wants to make a decision on that. Councilman Lang.
Well, this subject we broached it briefly at the last health committee meeting here,
Right.
And maybe Councillor Holland has some thoughts because he's more firsthand in the workings of the hospitals. But it just struck me, and I voiced this at the time, that neither Trail or Nelson are in a position to expand their facilities. They're basically run flat out of room, physically run out of room. And you know, if you're thinking 5, 10, 20 years down the road, they really should start from scratch at a different location and build something new. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of people who feel that way too, that it just doesn't make sense to keep trying to shoehorn more and more services into those existing facilities.
Anyway, the letters will be scanned. I kind of hesitate a little because the font size is so small on these darn letters to get them all on one page, but when you scan them, I can't read the darn things. Anyway, that'll come before council, maybe a committee of the whole topic. Is that where we left it?
Yes, I think so.
You know, just so we can get a sense. Like I say, other, New Denver, Silverton, and Cusp have not commented on this, so it's going to continue for a while. Okay. No, is there? I got an 8A there for a bylaw. Is that?
No.
Okay. So on to new business, emergency AKLBG resolution.
So I asked those to be on the agenda. If I was to make a motion at this time, it'd be just to send an endorsement of the emergency resolution that City of Nelson submitted to AKBLG. And the resolutions regarding the reclassification of agricultural lands in our area. And it's supported by the City of Nelson. And it's all written here. I don't know if, I guess you guys read this, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I could repeat it all, but it's creating 2 zones, and the province are in agriculture, one in the lower mainland, and the rest of the province as another entity or another zone. And there's some concern that the ability to protect pure, true agricultural land is severely eroded. So that's one motion.
Seconder, seconded by Councilor Hewitt. Discussion, call a question, all in favor, motion passes. We gonna hand deliver this thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll just stay later and type it to them?
Yeah.
No,
It's, I mean, no, it's just for, it's not gonna have really any impact. We're past the deadline. It's only, it's kind of a, what do you call it? A gesture.
okay. Then on to the tens, account payable.
I'll move the accounts payable in the amount of $74,448.15 be approved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Hewitt, seconded by Councilor Holland. Discussion, call a question, all in favor, motion passes. And on to the 11s, the financial report.
Okay, so we have your financial statements there for 2013. Mayor Blaine indicated that they didn't really want to, or didn't really see a need to attend this, to present these this year. However, if council wants to invite them, you're more than welcome to do so. So basically a 30-page document, so if you've got any questions for me, or if there's anything you'd like me to address, go ahead.
Councilor Holland.
Well, for all the years that I've been involved in local government, this was going to be the most interesting report from the auditor that I would have ever sat in on. And I'm curious, is there a connection between them not appearing and some of the business that we have before us?
I honestly couldn't tell you. They seemed surprised that we'd want them there. That was in the meeting that I had with them by telephone. However, I understand from staff that normally they come for this every year. So I'm somewhat surprised they didn't want to come.
My only, gosh, I sort of hate to do this, but my only way to address the information I got here, unfortunately, would be to ask that we recess in camera for a little bit.
Motion to go into camera? Was that a second, Councilor Lamb?
I think I know where you're coming from, and I'm very supportive. I just like, can I try a motion and you can tell me if it will work?
Well, we already have a motion.
Did you second it? We're towing around some things that can't be discussed in public.
Yeah, no, I realize that,
Okay.
so.
Yeah, I didn't want to go into any detail. I just have a very simple motion.
Well, Jim has moved that we go into camera. Is there a seconder?
Sure, I'll second. Just for this.
Oh, well, you didn't have to. So if you want to just have a discussion about this, whether or not we invite the auditor.
Okay, so we're gonna, under section 90, section 90, go to in camera here. Motion to go under section 90.
It would be section 90G.
90G.
G.
Okay. So you're gonna have to leave. We're gonna have to turn the camera off. However that gets done.
It was the last item of the